And we are live. I want to thank our live viewers. This is going to be episode 313 of the Polite Society podcast. We're going to be interviewing Ben Branam here in a second. I do want to mention before we go off to that I would like you to support our the live viewers. Please support our sponsors. We have ABN Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, the Firearms Safety Institute, and of course the Firearms Policy Coalition. We'll be going here in just 1 second, and I do want to also remind you, if you have questions or you want to interject a comment, you can hit the Q&A button on either Google Plus or on YouTube, and you can interject a question right into our Hangout. We'll answer it live on the air, or you can comment on YouTube, and that takes a little bit longer, but we will still get it, and we will still answer your question on the air. So, Ben, basically what I wanted to talk about when we do the interview here in just a second is mostly about the class that we've got coming up in May. I want to talk just about training in general is mostly of the questions I have written down to ask you. And we'll do, and everybody else just feel free and jump in, ask any questions at any time, and just want to make sure my recorder is set up correctly.
So this is an infomercial.
Pretty much.
Hey Ben, nice to see you.
Sorry.
Why? Sorry, why?
Oh, you were hoping for something better than an infomercial.
Yes.
Well, that's under your control, man. I'm going to ask him. I've got some questions I want to ask him, but you can ask him anything you want. I mean, in and out burger versus.
But let's see. All right, let's put him on the spot. Tips and
What's
tricks.
the fastest land animal?
For 50.
Not me.
That all depends on if you're talking with or without an AR, right? All right. I got the recorder ready to go. I'm going to bring us in, coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. This is the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're talking with Ben Branam. Ben, of course, you know him. He's been on the air several times. He is the guy behind the Modern Self-Protection podcast, and he's going to be doing some training with me coming up. Bob Main and he are coming up in May. We want to talk about that a bit. Ben, man, thanks for coming back on the air with us.
I love being here. Thanks for inviting me. You guys are so much fun.
Well, I got to admit to the listeners, man, we're pulling you not only away from your job, but away from a gun show. You stepped out. You were doing business in the gun show. You stepped out to do this interview, right?
Yeah, I work part-time for Sparks Firearms, and so I'm actually inside selling guns. They paid me to go to a gun show. But, yeah, I'm outside in the truck right now hanging out on my iPhone.
Nice work if you can get it, huh, Ben?
Yes, it is.
Well, the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Ben, we've got, just to get started here, we've got coming up May 15th and 16th, I think it is. I could have the dates wrong, but it's the middle of May. It's a weekend, and you and Bob are coming up to do Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced up here in Sioux Falls. Now, for people that may not be listening to your show, number one, shame on them, they should. But what can they expect in Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced course?
It's going to be 2 days of Bob Main and I making you run and gun. We're going to start out at the basics kind of level. We normally start working a couple groups, and then we're going to go to drawing, malfunction drills, reloads, teach you how to really run your gun, and then we'll be running and gunning the rest of the time. We're going to do our variation of hostage drills. We're going to be running left and right. You will literally, if you go to the class, be running and gunning faster than you ever thought you could. And it's just going to be 2 days, about 800 rounds. You're going to shoot a lot. You're going to be tired, not just from shooting, but actually running. It's one of the things we like to do the most is actually run up and down the range while you're shooting, and I'll teach you all the tricks you need to actually hit targets while you're running.
Well, now you've never seen me run, but I've got the gait of a
good trick when you can do it.
Yeah, I've got the gait running of a pregnant giraffe on steroids. I bounce all over the damn place. So if you can get me to get shots on target while running, you're going to make an accomplishment there. You got a challenge on you.
Well, I'll get you hitting when you're on the move. How fast you move, I can't. You've been running for a long time, man. I can't fix 50 years of that, but I can fix the
50
shooting part.
years, huh? Okay. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Hey,
So
I was just giving you a hard time. No,
That's cool.
I actually taught part of this class yesterday. I was out on the range, and I had a couple Marine combat vets in there, and they couldn't believe how fast they were moving and shooting once they got the technique down. It comes pretty easy. Bob Maynell and I are going to do, he loves to run and gun. I love to run and gun. Both of us come at it from a little different perspective. I'm from military law enforcement. He's from a civilian side. And each one of us has a couple extra tips that just make you faster and better. And we like to switch out during the class. We'll probably split the class in half. He'll take half, I'll take half. And then we'll switch after a while so you get both of our perspectives on moving and shooting. And it's just a couple little tricks, a couple little tweaks, and you get to the point where you're moving from left to right, making a hit every time, and you can do 3 to 5 rounds a second while moving and making hits.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So before I get out to my next question,
I haven't had anybody fail it yet.
Well, there you go. If I could ask, I've been talking with Bob a little bit myself, but I haven't mentioned it much on the air. Do you know how is Bob? I think is out of the hospital or about to get out of the hospital, right?
Yeah, Bob's been doing real well for everybody that's following him. He had a rough time at the beginning of the year. He's been in the hospital for about 3 months straight. He's almost done with all that cancer treatment, and he has beaten it mentally. So we've been planning. I mean, we're planning to go to your course there in May, and then we've got stuff booked till September. He's going to be back into it, and by the end of March and April at the latest, he'll be out on the range training and shooting again.
Yeah, I've got him scheduled to come up as a guest on the show coming up in the middle of April, I believe. I'm pulling up. Yeah, I got April 12th. He's going to be a guest on the show. So
that's the NRA convention, right?
Yeah, that is the weekend of the NRA convention. I figured I was probably going to be maybe just me, probably me, Gary, and Rachel, but I specifically booked him for that weekend because I knew that I might even have to handle it alone. So, well, then the next question.
Everybody else is going to be at the NRA convention hanging out without you.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't ruled out me making it down there yet, but I'm not. It's not looking likely. The next question I had then, Bob, Ben, I'm sorry, is your primary training was military. Initially was military. You through the military, a lot of your training was with the M4 or M16 or the fully automatic version of the AR. Let's put it that way. Or the 3-shot version of the AR. You did some contracting, and through listening to your show, I know you got to use some handgun with that. What I'm wondering is, your military training, how does that translate to the civilian use? What have you found through teaching civilians that maybe wasn't covered so well in the military end of the things?
Well, the military end is more teamwork and tactics, moving with a team, moving by yourself. It's not as much on the shooting. Most of the stuff that we do in the civilian world is all about us shooting. We kind of forget the tactics a part of it, a lot of it. So being a combat vet too, and actually having people shoot at me and shooting at them, I can give you that perspective, what it feels like, what it looks like, some of the things that you're going to do, and then some of the things you're going to want to do. And you naturally, when somebody starts shooting at you, you duck. Believe it or not, you will duck. It's natural. So body position, I'm not that big a deal on. In the shooting position, you'll see other instructors want that perfect shooting platform to start with. When bullets start flying, that perfect shooting platform goes out the window. You need to be able to make hits from whatever platform you can get to. And that's one of the things I emphasize in my teaching is I will make people stand funny. When people come to my class with a lot of training, I can tell, because they're getting in that perfect shooting platform every single time that they draw that weapon. And it makes them slow, and it makes them lethargic, and it makes them stuck, planted, and rooted, and they're not really dynamically moving or letting the fight dynamically move around them. They just kind of, when you plant yourself, everything happens around you. You don't make things happen. And then you're always on the downside. If you can get up and start moving, there's a name for it, everything. I don't care what you call it, busted off the X, just move. And then you start making the person react to you, and you can get ahead of the 8-ball, and now you can start winning the fight instead of just trying to react and be on the defensive side. So with the military training, it taught me a lot of that movement and tactics side of it that I can pass on. And then from there, I did law enforcement training, went to police academies, and then I've been to dozens of schools all over from all tons of teachers. And I figured it out. I've been studying handgun gun fighting for almost 20 years now. So I'm starting to get old.
There you go. So speaking of, you mentioned shooting in odd positions, and that brought to mind the one thing I've been really considering putting on my Glock is a laser, simply because for the shooting from really screwy positions, if you can't get a really good sight picture, and doing the shooting from retention, that kind of thing. What do you think of lasers, or let's call them alternative sighting devices? What do you think of using those? A lot of trainers say, yeah, it's going to slow you down.
Well, I tell everybody, and I'll tell you the same thing. If you have one, bring it, try it, see if it works for you or not. I generally don't have people that it works for. The techniques that Bob and I use are just faster. You don't bother with the laser. Oddball shooting positions is the only reason I carry a laser on some of my guns. After the Colorado shooting in the movie theater, and I was thinking, okay, if I was there with my wife, my tactic would be to get her down and then get on top of her to shield her. And now I'm trying to look through the seats and make a shot on a moving target. He's got a rifle and I've got a handgun. And I can't really, if I get up, I expose myself, and not only myself, but my wife now. How am I going to make that shot? And in the dark and all that stuff. And that's where the laser is. That's why I carry the laser. If something oddball like that happens, I can't get to any kind of traditional where I can get my gun up to my eye level and I have to shoot over my head or around a corner, or my head is one side of the seat and the gun's on the other side of the seat. Kind of that is where I think the laser is really where you can use it. Is it going to happen a lot? Probably not. Is it a hindrance to you to have a laser? Not at all. If you have a laser and you just don't use it, doesn't matter at all. So I tell all my students that have a laser, sure, bring it, turn it on, see if it works for you, and try it under these real stress situations. I'll put you under some minor stress where you got to shoot and move, draw, and make things happen. See if the laser works for you, or see if you just don't ignore it. Most of the students that I have come, they'll just totally ignore the laser.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Ben, can I ask a question?
Not a big fan of them, I guess. Of course, Rob, what do you got?
That the instinctive shooting, the kinematic shooting, the point shooting is really helpful at night, whether you have a laser or not. Because until you know where your gun points, when you're presenting it and you're hunting for the red dot somewhere in front of you, it doesn't really speed you up. Because, you know, in low light, whether you're trying to find the sights or the dot, getting really close before you start hunting for the aim point and the target is just invaluable.
I'm with you. Bob and I haven't discussed the complete curriculum on the course we got coming up there for you guys in May. I want to put in a 4-hour block on point shooting, instinctive shooting, target focus shooting, whatever you want to call it, but shooting without your sights. In 4 hours, I can get to the point where all my students can do it at up to 10 yards without their sights. No problems.
Right.
It's a really easy technique once you get it. And all these people that are like, oh, you can't not point shoot, you have to point shoot. Most of them, if you break them down and talk to them and you get to the point where they really give you the complete truth, they're doing it without knowing it. I was to the point for a long time where I know I'm point shooting because I'm not seeing my sights. I'm looking at the target and I'm making hits. The problem was it took me a long time to learn how to teach somebody else. Before that, it was, well, just go shoot 30 or 40,000 rounds. You'll figure it out as you go. But that's a lot of time.
Well,
so now we've got to the point, Bob Main and I have both come up with a kind of a curriculum that you learn how to do it. I show you, I put you in a situation where you have to do it and where you just kind of figure it out on your own, and I show you a couple techniques, and it becomes very easy. Right.
And let's face it, at 2 yards, what, you're going to hand the guy your gun? I mean, it's all point shooting, but 15-yard hostage shots. If I'm involved, I really want you using the sights.
No, I can't do that. I have to use my sights on that.
Yeah.
There becomes a point where you got to learn, and then part of my teaching too is if I could get on the sights every single time, if I have the time, yes, I will. Sight alignment, sight picture, breath control, perfect grip, perfect stance, half breath out, squeeze the trigger, follow through, all of those 7 fundamentals. If I had a choice to make a shot, that's what I'd do every time. But when somebody's shooting at you, lining up your sights kind of goes out the window. Especially the closer they get, the less you're in tune to want to find that front sight.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with just knowing yourself and your shooting so that you know what you have to do to take that shot. You know how fast you can shoot and still hit that target. You know if you can hit that target from this really funky position, or hey, I need to take a little bit more time. This is a farther away shot, trickier, a hostage shot, whatever. So you have to know your abilities and gauge those correctly.
Yeah, and that's when it comes to hostage targets and stuff, that is the hard one. You hit it on the nose. You got to know your ability, and you're only going to be. I would say that the assessment that says you're only going to be half as good as your worst day on the range is probably about right when it comes to real combat and people really shooting at you.
Yeah, well, and it's not just a hostage situation. Obviously, that's extremely tricky. But you've got innocent bystanders, and you've got to be aware of all that too. So there's a lot
all
to
that stuff's going through your mind. Mm-hmm. You can't go the flat focus on the front sight. So I'll say that again. You're probably going to be half as good as your worst day on the range when it comes to the real thing. Mm-hmm. So think about your worst day you've had in the range in a long time, and then cut your skill level in half. That's probably about where you're going to be when people are really shooting at you.
I've got a question.
Makes you want to train a little bit more, right?
It does.
Yeah, it sure does. You can never train too much, as long as you're training well. I've got a question about draws. Do y'all do a lot of work on the draw?
Yes.
Good.
Everything comes from the holster.
Yeah. Do you let people carry in the same positions where they usually conceal carry, even if that's not, the standard belt position?
Yes. For you, Rachel, being a woman, I bet you like to carry more towards appendix than actually on the point of your hip. Yes, I let people carry where they carry, and I encourage people when they come to class, bring your concealed carry gear, bring the clothes you wear every day, and bring your concealed carry weapon and your concealed carry holster. The stuff you wear every day is what I'd rather see you shoot with.
Right. That's great.
Well, we're coming up.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it absolutely did.
All right, Paul.
That's all right. We're coming up on the end of the segment here, Ben. And if I could, can I ask you to hang up for just one more segment? I got a couple more things I want to get to you, ask you about.
Of course, I'm having a blast. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll be here.
All right, hang on, everybody. We will be right back with more with Ben Branam right after this.
That's just because you two truck guys want to talk about driving over shit, don't you?
Well, I did want to. The one thing I wanted when we go to the next segment here in just a second, I wanted to talk to you about was I really liked your show about where to park, and I wanted to talk about that for just a little bit, and then basically anything else anybody wants to ask about is cool. I don't think we can have a problem filling up one more segment. So let's see here. Yep, I'm ready to go. So here we go coming back in. And by the way, live viewers, if you have a question, you can hit the Q&A app or hit a comment on the YouTube video, and we will answer your question. Ben will answer it live on the air. So here we go, coming back in 5. And we're back. This is, again, Polite Society Podcast. This is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Segment 2 with Ben Branam here. Ben, I wanted to, when we get, I want to go back to your podcast, the Modern Self-Protection Podcast. I listen. I get most of them, although sometimes I do have to, it does take me a while to get back to them. But I want to go back to a show you had recently about parking your car. And one thing, I don't remember if you mentioned it in your show or not, but I agree with you that where you park and how you park and what you do with your car can be a very essential part of personal security. What I do when I park my own vehicle, whether it be the big truck or my pickup or the wife's car, no matter what I'm driving, when I park, I always try to get something where I can drive out of the parking spot. If it means I have to back in, I have to back in. Is that the same with you?
Yeah, I like to back in, and I come from the oil field work where everybody's required. It's the rule. And then, but I will go the other way too. I drive a big 4x4 pickup truck. So if I nose in to the curb that goes out to the street, I can drive over the curb. But I'm always looking for that way to get out when I park. How's the vehicle going to help me, or how's the vehicle going to hurt me if somebody's after me? If you kind of think that way, it'll start getting you, because there's always downsides to everything. There's upsides and downsides to everything. Where you park your vehicle, if the car door is facing you and somebody's chasing you, you know, you run straight to your car, you don't have your car between you to get in. If you put your driver's door away from you where you come out, now you have to walk around your vehicle. Somebody could be hiding behind it. That whole show, I just wanted people to think about where you park. Don't just blindly take the spot that's closest to where you're going, or you just kind of drive into the parking lot and go, oh, there's a spot, and park.
Yeah.
Think about what you're doing and paying attention.
Well, and for old fat truckers like me, if you park a little bit farther away, you do get a little bit of exercise walking.
Yeah, you're not the only one. A little exercise is always nice.
So has anybody else got another question for Ben?
You know,
Oh, that's
Ben?
not cool. We're getting crickets.
Talk to me, Ben.
Well, here's a couple tricks just out of that show. I work in the oil field. I do a couple thousand miles a week in my truck, a Chevy 2500. So I almost live on gas stations. You know, those stop and robs?
Mm-hmm.
I visit 2 or 3 a day. So I generally try to pull in the parking lot. If it's dark, I like to nose towards the front door so I can get my headlights in there, or I can just look in and then do a long sweeping turn and back in with my driver door away from the actual entrance door. It gives me a little bit of cover with my vehicle. It gives me a chance when I swing the vehicle all the way around the parking lot to get a good chance, get my headlights to use the parking lot, and it gives me that extra second so I can look in the door to see what's going on inside that stop and rob. There was an Orange County sheriff that I'll never forget. I did the case study. He was killed. Dumb luck, I don't know what you want to call it. End of his shift at late at night, early in the morning, like 4 a.m., he nosed in his patrol car to the stop and rob, starts to get out of his car to go get a coffee to end his shift, and a guy with an AK-47 was robbing the joint at the time. Cop didn't see him. He saw him. He killed this poor sheriff. The guy never had a chance. His only opportunity would have been to park somewhere else. So when you park, you might want to pay attention and think about what you're doing. You've got that danger zone or that time where you have the transition from being foot mobile to vehicle mobile. When you're getting in and out, you got to take your keys and all that stuff. It only feels like a couple seconds, but if somebody's actually trying to hurt you, it's a long time when you're getting in or out of your vehicle until you miss that transition where you can do something. So that's probably one of your most vulnerable spots, is when you're getting in your vehicle or getting out of your vehicle if somebody's going to attack you.
Absolutely. And also, I'd recommend to people, when you're parking your car, wait to turn your car off until you are absolutely sure it's safe around you. I've always said, and I will always continue to say, your vehicle is the best weapon you got. If you take the key out, you've given yourself a couple seconds before that tool can be brought into use again.
Yeah, that's that transition time. And I kind of, if I pull up to the stop and rob and it looks like somebody's robbing the joint, I will just pull out of the parking lot and keep going. call 911 on the way. And I've done it where I've stopped in places and people look just too weird and funky. This guy's a gangbanger hanging out, and they're just loitering, looking for trouble. I will go down the street to the next gas station.
Mm-hmm.
And one more good reason to not, for all of you that have these digital, and I have them in both vehicles, actually all three vehicles now. I have a digital display that gives me an estimated miles to empty. Don't let that thing go to zero. Fill up when you got 50 miles left in it.
I don't even let my tank go half anymore. Just fill it up.
Yeah, I do a lot of driving. A lot of it in the country, so more rural. A lot of traveling out of town, out of state, and especially if it's me alone, but even if it's not, I will plan my gas stops pretty carefully, so I know I'm not going to run out or get anywhere close to it, and so I know I'm going to be able to stop, hopefully while it's still light, while in a safer town. I know I try to know the towns and pick my gas stations carefully, but there have been some times when I was planning to stop and I was like, none of the gas stations in this town are places I'm comfortable with, so thankfully I have enough gas I could make it to the next one.
Yeah, I can't make that point any better. Nicely said, Rachel.
Thank you.
Have you convinced your wife to do the same thing, Ben?
No. I'm lucky my wife.
For a minute there, I was going to put an S on your chest. How'd you do that? All right, same problem.
I've almost got her doing better. I say almost. Luckily, she doesn't have that little digital display in her car because she would run it down to 5 or 6 miles. I've gotten her to the point where she'll fill it up before the little light comes on that says you need to get gas. So for me, that's doing well.
Okay.
I
think I've had that light come on maybe. Yeah, I think I've had that light come on maybe 2 times in the past 100,000 miles.
And here's the other trick I can ask you, Rachel. You're a girl. I think my wife does it on purpose. She plans her gas stops, so she'll let the car run completely out of gas until we're both going somewhere and I'm driving her car. So the first thing I do is get in and fire it up, and I see there's no gas, and so then we have to stop at the gas station. I think she does it on purpose, so I'll fill up the car for her.
Yeah, I have people borrow my car sometimes, family members, and it bugs me, and I think they all know, but now you do not return my car when it's under a quarter tank. Not because I'm mad that you're making me do it. I'm mad because you're making me drive my car when it's that low.
So, yeah, you want to talk to my wife for a while, Rachel, and convince her of that? Because
we can be friends.
It's getting better.
Ben, just get her to listen to the podcast, especially the midweek. We have Rachel on a lot.
I try to get her to listen to the podcast, and she's. I think she gets enough of my voice.
There you go. One thing I didn't want to cover yet that I had written down to ask you here, Ben, was that this is the first time we've talked to you since you started working at part-time with Sparks there, and what has come out recently that's come into the gun shop there that you thought is really interesting, really cool, and maybe is on your wish list?
There's a lot of fun stuff. The SHOT Show and everything has changed in the last couple of years to where stuff comes out. Last week I had one of the new Glock 34s with the slide cut for the sight. That was pretty cool. I really don't want one of those. I think Glock you're not sponsored by Glock, right? I think they did it kind of piss poor, so I'm not into that. We've got a couple of the Smith & Wesson performance guns that were announced at SHOT. We had them before they were announced at SHOT, so that was really cool. Right now on my wish list, I really want a Smith & Wesson M&P, the core version that's cut for one of the optics. I think that's going to be my next purchase. That's what I really want. And every time I see one come through the shop, they just keep getting cooler and cooler every time I handle one. I'm going to have to break down and spend the extra money, and then I got to put the sight in. Brand new stuff, though. Well, you saw it SHOT, the Stag guns. The new Stag Model 3s with the diamond head rails, they're freaking incredible. And now Stag is making them so you can upgrade them with a Geisler trigger and all sorts of cool stuff. We had somebody order one that was like top of the line. She's a 3-gunner, and she ordered like everything that Stag could do to that gun. Upgraded bolt carrier group, pin set, the Geisler trigger, the better barrel, everything. That gun was nice. She had to wait a week to get her paycheck to get it. I told her if she doesn't pick it up by next week, I'm going to take it home. It was really gorgeous. I'm really impressed with the new Stags. Those Model 3s with those diamond head rails are just fantastic guns. Really awesome. Once you start handling one, it's just like, really? Wow, this is what an AR should be like. So that one's on my wish list too. I know that one got announced at SHOT, but we've had that one since December. So it was kind of cool. I've been selling them since December, and they got announced at SHOT in January. I think those are about the 2 guns I got on wish list right now that keep coming through the shop.
The one thing that was announced at SHOT that I really want to get my hands on some of it is I want to get one of the Magpul AKs. And,
oh yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know that it's going to happen real soon, but it's one of these. It's going to happen, but it just may take a while.
I am actually on their list from Magpul. They said they'll be available in April. I want a foregrip and a folding stock. I'm on their list. I'm waiting.
There you go.
I'm with you. Trying to think of what else was announced at SHOT that's come through our shop that's been really cool. The AKP mags are really cool. I've got a couple of those. I'm trying to get at some of the Glock 17 mags from Magpul to see what they're like, how they do.
I'm waiting for them to come out, and I want those Glock mags to come out in 40 caliber. Yeah, they right now they're only going to be producing them in 9, and I'm like, well, that doesn't mean no darn good.
I imagine if they're a success in 9mm, they'll move to the 40.
I can't imagine they're not being. Half the price, and with Magpul's, with their reputation, they're not going to put out crap.
Right.
And that could be the problem too. As the plastic opening gets bigger and bigger, it's probably a harder engineering thing. Remember with those Glocks, you always could tell the cheap ones from the crappy ones. The cheap crappy ones would have just plastic lips, and a good Glock magazine would have metal lips in it. So hopefully Magpul has solved that problem, but I mean for lots of years that was always the tale. If you picked up a Glock mag and it didn't have those metal feed lips, you just tossed it. It was junk.
Used it for practice because you were going to need to get your malfunction drills taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now Magpul moved to Texas. Where are they?
I don't know where they are in Texas. They're not by me.
Not out in San Antonio, not in Austin, right?
I thought they were somewhere Austin area-ish, but I'm not sure exactly where. Okay. Good question.
They didn't make a huge splash when they came here. If they did, they just kind of quietly opened and started working.
Yeah, I know.
Half the people in San Antonio wanted to work for them.
Yeah. Their executive offices, I think, just closed in Colorado. I think they went up. That part went up to Wyoming, I think. But yeah, I think their manufacturing is all in Texas now. So, well, we have burned up another segment, Ben. Before we go, though, Modern Self-Protection. Let people know how they can get your podcast and maybe what you got coming up.
Cool. Yeah, my podcast is at modernselfprotection.com. Or you can find it on iTunes or Stitcher, Modern Self-Protection Podcast. Pretty simple. I got courses coming up all over the place. Bob and I are going to see you guys in May. In August, we're going to be in the Northwest in Washington. In September, we're going to be in Ohio. Bob's got a trip planned to go, I think, to Green Bay coming up at the end of the year, too. I don't know how late I want to go to Green Bay during the year. I'm not a cold weather fan, but we are traveling more and more. So go check out the website at modernselfprotection.com. You click on that course link, It'll give you a schedule of everywhere I'm going. Next month I'm in Houston. The following month I'm in Dallas. Him and I are getting around. So if we're not in your neck of the woods yet, just wait. We're getting there.
Well, if he does drag you up to Green Bay late in the year, you make sure he gets you sideline tickets to a Packer game because you know he's going to have them.
He does every year. He goes to at least one game every year. That's the secret about Bob. Every year he takes a plane ticket out to Green Bay just to see a game. It's kind of funny.
All right. Well, Ben, I do want to thank you for joining us today. We do need to run to break again. And when we come back, folks, we got our DGUs coming back. So hang on, everybody. We will be right back right after this. Awesome. Well, we'll let you get back to your work. I thank you for taking your time out to do this, man.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I'm glad it worked. I was having like iPhone issues over here. I'm ready to throw this stupid thing. And it's getting loud over here with everybody moving around and closing the end of the show, so good timing.
All right.
Magpul's in Austin.
Oh, they are in Austin.
Yep. Yeah, I just looked them up. They're totally my opposite corner for me, but they're like southwest. Mm-hmm. Bee caves.
Well, Rachel, I'm going to have to get up to see you, too. I'm in Dripping Springs right now, so I'm just west of you.
Okay.
For the gun show. We got to get together one of these times. I missed you doing a rally or something 2 weeks ago. I had to watch my kids. Some of my friends were going. I'm like,
Oh, man.
I already promised my wife she could go out of town.
Yeah, well, maybe I could make it down to one of the courses you're doing. That would be fun.
That'd be great. Let me know.
And
I know a guy. I'll make you a deal.
Yeah, I like deals.
So
Definitely, I'll hook you up, Rachel.
I take it you're not going to the NRA convention, Ben?
No, I'm not this year.
Okay.
I haven't been. Like, all my traveling has been for training and for teaching courses and for taking courses. Yep. I need to get to the SHOT Show and the NRA convention one of these days.
Well, please consider the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix. You don't have to worry about winter weather in Green Bay quite yet.
Is that one in November again this year?
It's September. It's the end of September in Phoenix.
I might be able. Me and my wife got friends over there. I might be able to make that excuse of
honey, bring the family.
Trip. There you go.
I'll buy you dinner Friday night if you can make it.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Dinner Friday night is free. It's bought by the SAF.
Oh.
Let me ask you real quick. I've got a Para Ordnance 1445. I'm trying to find an extended magazine release for it. Have you ever seen one?
Yes, they make them. It's more of a screw-in part, and I'm trying to think of who makes one. Para Ordnance, I don't know if they shut down the Pro Shop yet. It used to be on their website, and it said Pro Shop. You used to be able to get one from there.
Oh, okay.
But for them, it looks like a standard magazine release that goes in there, and then there's a screw that you screw in, and you put a paddle on it to make it bigger.
Wow, okay,
I used to have one. I'm pretty sure I got it from their Pro Shop.
Okay.
Ben, seriously.
Check fast, because they're going away.
I'm checking.
Seriously, Ben, if you can make GRPC, I'll buy you dinner Saturday night. And that one they don't pay for, so. But yeah, if you're into the right side of it at all, this is NRA and everything else rolled up into one. It is huge for gun rights.
Yeah, I've gone digitally a couple times. I listen to all the people there, and I get reports too from people going back, and it's on my bucket list. One of those things.
Now tell your wife that you won't be dragging her around, because we're going to live stream it. So that gives you a place to sit. She wants now, because you're stapled down with us.
I'm stuck, honey. I can't go anywhere. No, actually, we have a bunch of friends in Phoenix, so that could work out real well. We stay with them. She can hang out. I can go to the conference, and then I can be with her and the kid at night. That makes for a good vacation.
There you go.
I'm always thinking of trying to get one over on my wife. I just need to get her into the shooting world.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to get the rest of the show knocked out, man. So.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, Paul. I can't wait, honestly, to be out there in May. Thank you so much for picking us up. Man, I'm going to have so much fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to. I'm so excited to even think about meeting you. I can't speak. I really can't wait to meet you in person and shake your hand, bud. I really appreciate all you guys do for gun rights and everything else. I like the shooting part and the gun rights stuff. It really pisses me off most of the time, and I can't do it. So I appreciate you guys for doing it.
Oh, hey, before you go, Simon just came in on Google Plus and wanted to ask you, Ben, which do you personally like better, the AR or the AK?
2 minutes on what mood I'm in. As a battle rifle, and if I was just going to carry one into combat, I like the AR platform. More ergonomic, lighter recoil, more accuracy, easier to use sights, more in a lot of things. But then the truth is, my trunk gun every day is an AK with a folding stock. Because it folds and the size of the gun, it's in a case, but it doesn't look like a gun case when I carry it around all the time. I've carried it through hotels. I've carried it in and out of my house. People ask me what it is, and I just tell them it's a piece of equipment for the oil field. I really like the AK for that because it doesn't look like a rifle case. You can't put an AR in a case and not have it look like a rifle is the problem. So I really like both of them for different purposes.
Very cool.
Is that a political answer right there on the fence?
Hey, it works perfect, man.
Well, I think you actually use is telling.
And then I have 3 ARs and 1 AK. So
Exactly.
If that
exactly
helps.
Like the combination of both of those, and I think you're right, they have different purposes.
It's
different
kind of a
guns.
mixed rifle household. I understand.
I got a friend here.
Household.
I got a friend here that has a AK pistol that he put the SIG brace on, and that thing would be super handy. I'm telling you.
It's guys like him that are making it hard for us to keep steel cord ammo.
No, it's the guys that keep writing the ATF, asking them if it's okay.
Yeah, amen to yes. STFU.
Stop it. They said once, you're good. Don't ask again.
Yeah.
Oh, steel core ammo. That's funny. Yeah, the only problem with those AK pistols and the AR pistol is man, that thing is a fireball in your face. Shoot one, they're fun. I'm not sure it's more than a toy. I got one right now I'm working with.
This one I had an optic, and I had a black eye. Because it's that close. You with that SIG brace on there, yeah, it was a tack driver at 50 yards. However, I don't know how many tacks you're going to drive with a eye that's swollen shut.
All right. Well, I got to run, you guys. I really appreciate you. Everybody listening. I give Sparks Firearms a free plug because they let me out here. If you're in San Antonio or into the gun shows, come by and see us. You'll really like talking to Steve, the owner. He's a really small town. He wants to know everybody and get you the right gun for you.
Very, very cool.
Cool.
I got to run. Thank you so much. Give me a call anytime you got any more questions, Paul.
Will do. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Love you. Bye.
There's Gary. Susan is here. She'll be. She just came in. We'll be getting her into Read News in here in just a second. Do we want? Let me actually bring her mic up so that I'll make sure she does want to read news. She just walked in the door.
Hey, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
On those comments on the costs of campus carry.
Yes.
I commented on the costs and then gave you the let you crow about A&M.
Okay. Let me go see what you wrote.
No, it'll be a nice surprise for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was stupid what they were saying about costs.
Well, no, you and I could make it cost that. Because we'd have to put in TSA naked body scanners at every bathroom door, right? We could do that if we were that stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, the truth, I should say this for podcast. The truth is, it's not going to raise the costs. But even if it did, it's proven that it's going to save lives. So what are lives worth to us?
Right.
I mean,
Good point.
that's the bottom line there.
Save that for the
remember to
podcast.
say it exactly like that when we're recording, because that's a great quote.
Hey, Paul,
Yes, sir.
you were going to have us record the 4 safety tips sometime.
Yes, let's do that today.
Okay, so I'll dig them up.
I'm waiting for Susan. She's still on the phone. She's said she just needed another minute or two. So, Mr. Harpster, how are you doing, man? Mr. Harpster, you're muted.
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
There we go.
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. You at the gun show in Pierre?
Yep, just finished up. In fact, we met a couple of podcast listeners who came over to say hello.
Oh, very, very cool.
Yep, a couple of middle of South Dakota podcast listeners. They said they loved the show. Say hi to everybody for them. I don't remember their names, but they did say to say hello. And they liked it, so make it more exciting. They said the only comment they made was more guests that don't agree with
Plug
you,
in if you want to go.
guys, for debate, more debate, opposing view debate. One of the guys, big guy. I don't know if you know him, Paul. I think he said he's met you. Really big guy from some small town up here by Pierre. Avid shooter.
Gary.
Yeah. How are you, Gary?
All right. Is that volume on your TV?
You can hear it. It's pretty low. Let me mute it.
It would probably be better visually if you turn it off because it's flashing on the screen here.
313.
That better for you, Gary?
Well, like I said, it's flickering, so you know
Okay,
it's
good.
funky.
Disaster Junkie Sue, I think, is where I sent it to. Plug your headset in yet?
You know, I forgot about it. You were talking about Paul bringing on somebody. There was an anonymous person logged into the show notes earlier.
There was?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was probably like me or something. Depending on how you open it, it can show up as like an anonymous person. But I think you have to have the link. So
You do.
Okay, it was like anonymous hippo or
yeah,
something weird.
it'll do that. But it's just like it depends on how you gonna open it. It was probably me.
Okay, it just
Yeah.
odd.
Good point though.
It was our good friends at the NSA. They wanted to check out what we were going to be doing.
Definitely.
I don't think we need Susan for the open. Do we want to go ahead and record that quick?
Sure.
Sure. Well, let me run up to it.
I got to get to it myself. Hey, we finished writing the open. I don't think I did.
It looks like it is.
Okay.
Let's see if it includes everybody.
John's on here.
Yeah, it is. We'll make that one.
Gary.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to fly?
Let's do it.
Okay, coming back in 5. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live on Sunday, February 22nd, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rachel Malone, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Ben Branam of the Modern Self-Protection podcast about handgun training.
I'm Rob Morse, and in one of our DGUs, a son gives his mother a handgun as a gift, and 1 week later, she needs to use it.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we report on an Oklahoma criminal painting his firearm like a child's toy.
So, climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 313 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome to episode 313 of the Polite Society podcast. We are recording this one again. We're not at ABN Army Surplus, although Gary Harpster is joining us. We are right now. We're recording this one a little bit later than we normally do because I just finished watching just before we started recording the Daytona 500. I want to say congratulations to Joey Logano, who just won his first 500. I know most of that doesn't matter to, but it does to me. So there. We're going to go ahead and get to our individual personal news segments. We're going to start off with Rob. Rob, what's been up with you since you've been on the air last, man?
Well, the 885 ban has been in the news. The 223 green tip. So I got off my bottom and wrote my legislators. If you want to just do it by clicking on a website, you can go to the NRA ILA website and put in your zip code. They'll list all the legislators you want to contact. Fill out the form, hit send. They'll do it for you. I don't know, did you listen to the Wednesday show, Paul?
I did.
Okay, so you know that on Tuesday I was at a local political meeting and I asked the audience to go to a planning commission. Well, that meeting at the planning commission happened while we were recording the Wednesday podcast. They filled the building.
Wow.
And the hall and the outside patio with supporters for a new gun range. Unfortunately, the Planning Commission voted against giving the range the permits they needed, so their requests will now go to the City Council. Some of the planning commissioners were kind of looking for a place to hide under a chair when they made that vote. I dropped off some materials for the gun owners of California at a local gun shop, and I found out that gun shop will now start a chapter of a girl and a gun club. That starts in April, and I helped. We've been having these get-togethers where couples would, hi, this is away from the range. It's part food potluck, part gun potluck, to make guns a little more acceptable. And I spread the word on this new gun club starting amongst the couples. A buddy dragged me to a gun store where he's been frustrated by their gunsmith. The gunsmith had his gun for 2 months and then decided he couldn't do the work.
What?
Oh.
That's bad.
He's trying to get a reflex sight put on his pistol. So the guy's got to machine into the slide, and he backed out at the last minute. I guess it's good. He'd rather have him back out before he,
Right.
butchers your gun and says, here's $50, go fix it.
But it would be nice if he figured that out before 2 months.
All right. Yeah. I got my IDPA scores back, and I placed 5th out of 22 in that meet.
That's respectable. That's very respectable.
Yeah, very good.
The part of it that actually I liked, well, and as you'll know if you watch competitors score, sometimes the guy who wins doesn't win any of the stages. He just never has a bad stage.
Right.
Well, some of my times were up in the top 1, 2, or 3 competitors. So I've got the skills, I just don't have them all the time.
Okay.
That's fair. That's good. Fifth is outstanding, really, out of that many people.
Thanks.
All right. Well, next up is Rachel. Then, Rachel, what's been up with you?
Honestly, not a whole lot the past few days. Just trying to live normal life and, keep going, stay sane. There was an event that I missed yesterday. It was a pretty major gun rights rally put on by Gun Rights Across America. It's the 3rd year in a row they've done this. I spoke at the one last year. I was planning to go out because I had several friends who were speaking, but honestly, it was one of those days where for my own sanity, I just needed to have a day off and have that Saturday at home when I didn't have something I had to do. So I did.
Okay, that's cool. Gary Harpster, you're up next, man. What's been up? It's been a while since you've been on the air. What's been up with you?
It has been a while. We've been busy, busy, busy. A couple of gun shows under our belts, the gun show season. Here, the state capital of South Dakota had a real good turnout yesterday and today, considering very, very cold for Pierre. 0 degrees below zero, 1, 2, 3 below. Clear skies today. Heck, the high only got to be about 8.
Oh my goodness.
But they had an excellent show. Everybody was real, real happy with it. It's our first time up here, as Paul may know, the others in the country may not, our state legislature is in session as well. So I came up Friday and had some meetings, and then tomorrow I have some meetings, and they have to do mostly with what's going to come up on contracts over the next year, and I learned about what kind of bulletproof vests they're going to be looking for, what kind of uniforms, what kind of cases, everything from what the highway patrol is going to be doing the next year or two, game fish and parks going to be doing the next year or two, sheriff's department. So those are always invaluable meetings. Gives us a little bit of an idea as to what to look forward to over the course of the next year. I think one of the things that's interesting for our listeners is the active shooter kits wasn't something, I don't think, that most South Dakota police departments, particularly at the level of CERT or emergency responders, considered as part of their budgets. And this year that's changing. They're looking at having active shooter kits in the back of every kind of a squad. So active shooter kits in the back of the guys that transport for the jail, active shooter kits and emergency management people. So you're seeing a trend due to the kinds of shootings we've seen around the country where law enforcement are getting singled out. You're starting to see a response at the state, the county, and the city level for protecting their people against those types of incidences. So that's something that's kind of a new thing. Been good.
Cool. Then Gary Doherty, man, you're up next. What's been up with you?
Excuse me. I'm ready to. I told you last time we talked that the Glock is the backup now in place. The Para is ready. Been shooting through some that Ranger T through it. No jams, so I'm very happy with that. Desperately trying to find a extended magazine release for it because I have very short thumbs, and I need to actually have planning on talking to Jason Christensen tomorrow about a double wide magazine carrier for that, because up until this point I've been using my single for my regular 1911. So I need a couple more little tweaks, and it will be my full-time carry.
Very, very cool.
It. Yeah.
Well, that leaves Susan and I, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of gun-related stuff. As I mentioned as we opened the segment, I watch the Daytona 500. That's one race every year. I will watch the Daytona 500 start to finish, period. Did that, and been working a little bit on the training classes that are coming up here in Sioux Falls. And I was figuring out what we're going to need for ammo for the year between Susan and I came up with about 4,500 rounds.
Wow.
Is what we're going to need to get through the year between the two of us. And I got to looking online and trying to find out how much I'm going to have to spend for ammo, and actually come up with some pretty good prices. I found a company called LAX Ammunition, and their prices are really good. It's down to $239 for a 1,000 round case for remanufactured ammo. So just about almost 24 cents a round, which is not horrible.
What was the total when you said you needed 4,500 rounds? What did you come up with a total in your family budget for the year?
Just about $1,000.
About $1,000.
Yeah.
As
For
far as
practice.
hobbies go, that's not unusual. A guy playing golf will spend that. Somebody who's fishing will spend that. So.
Well, that's for practice ammo. Yeah, that's about what we're going to be spending is about $1,000 on that. So that's about what's been going on with us. Nothing really gun related. The dogs are doing fine. The four-legged kids are being annoying as usual. Susan got a little bit of overtime in at work this week, and that's about it. I'm back to, of course, now we know this. I've already mentioned it on the show, but I'm back to doing my regular regional run, so I'm not working on the weekends, and I'm enjoying that so much. I do want to mention before we run off to break that we do have the 3 classes coming up in Sioux Falls this year, Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced. For podcast listeners, you're going to be hearing about that when we get to the Ben Branam interview. For live viewers, you already heard that interview. But that class is coming up May 16th and 17th this year, and you want to go to handgunworld.com for that class. Citizen First Response, that's going to be Ken Kowalski is going to be doing that one along with John Holloway and Chaz Murray. That's going to be August 1st and 2nd. And I've confirmed that John Holloway is going to be joining us as a guest on the show coming up on the 8th of March. And Ken Kowalski and Chaz Murray are going to come together, and they're going to be interviewed and be guests on the show on the 22nd of April. So you'll be able to hear from them before we do that class. Also, then again for that class, by the way, you want to go to nighthawkcustomtraining.com, and the links for all this is in the show notes. Cornered Cat on August 16th and 17th. Email Susan at susan@politicsandguns.com for information on that one. And I expect all 3 of these to sell out. Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced, by the way, you're going to want to get on it because that's going to sell out, I'm guessing, before the end of March. That thing's going to be full. So you're probably going to want to get on it if you want to get to it. It's a great deal, by the way. $350 for a 2-day class. And there's a lot you're going to learn with that $350. It's among the best values there is out there for handgun training. Why don't we go ahead and step off to break then? When we come back, we've got a news segment, and Susan's here to read the news. We will do that right after this. Okay.
Let me tell you, Paul, I didn't want to say it on the air, but LAX, I went to order some 5.56.
Okay.
And the price jumped $25 right in the middle of my checkout.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have to pay the higher price?
I didn't check it out. I backed away.
I did not get to the order process yet. I was just looking around
Yeah.
for good prices on ammo and found that and thought I'd mention it. So
We are working as well, just so all of you know, at carrying ammo stock in our store, probably next 60 to 90 days. And of course, once we line that up for you guys, of course, we'll get you some prices so we can maybe get some ammo at wholesale prices too.
That'd be great.
yeah. And if you can find the Magic 22 long rifle, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just you guys are all aware of AmmoSeek and Lucky Gunner and all the
Gunbot.net. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I think we have another message here just on YouTube. Just a second.
Okay, I'm gonna grab something to drink. Be right back.
I'll be right here.
I'll be over here.
I'll be right here.
And I'll be in Texas.
Lucky.
Mhm.
Oh, I am so jealous. Mr. Fat said, I just received my 40 annual Second Amendment Foundation commemorative rifle that they had been showing in Houston. Oh, I am so jealous. Those are gorgeous rifles.
Mhm.
So thank you for letting us know that, Mr. Fats. And
So we can be jealous.
yes. Okay. Susan, can you give me a mic check quick?
Hello, hello. Is anyone home?
No.
Hello.
One more time.
Hello, hello. Mic check, 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 check.
Okay.
Lisa.
I love you more than you love me.
I don't think so. Can you guys hear her?
Yes.
Yes.
And I do, by the way, when we get to the end of the show, I do have the outro back in my soundboard.
Oh, yay.
I want some Taco Bell really freaking bad.
An armed society is a polite society. Welcome to the Polite Society podcast, where we support and report on civilian self-defense. I want Taco Bell so freaking bad.
Yeah, I got that one too.
He always cracks me up. Especially how he goes on and on and on about how he's going to freeze to death because, it's getting down to 50 in Florida.
I got another soundboard I can, while we're playing here.
Strong am I with the Force. I have you now.
Look, sir, droid. These aren't the droids we're looking for.
Some weird sounds
Wait.
over there.
I am your father.
You're just having too much fun.
I'm telling you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do I stop that?
I don't know.
Look, sir, droid.
Okay.
Is
Are you
that
good
like
now?
the Queen's March or something like that?
No, that's the beginning of the Star Wars theme.
One of the great themes of all time.
What is it?
Are you done yet?
Wow. I need to add something stronger to my coffee till this makes sense.
Don't
Don't
fail
sell
me
you
again,
food.
Admiral.
I'm just going to extend my leg under this desk and kick you right in the shins.
Okay, my chair is placed just so that you would only hit the shins.
I can move my chair.
All right, are we ready? Are we ready to
Yeah.
try some news here?
Try it.
Oh, let's do it.
Well, some of us are you?
All right, somebody else bring us in. Rob, you
I'll
want to
do
do
it.
it?
Okay.
Oh, Rachel, okay.
Go, Rachel!
All right, let's do
we
it.
are rolling now.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our news segment. Susan, give us some news.
Tucson police have received many complaints over the last few months. They knew they had a drug house in the neighborhood. They ordered everyone out of the house as a suspect dashed over the back fence and into the arms of waiting police. The suspect threw down his firearm and was arrested. Officers noted something different about the suspect's gun. The tip of the firearm was painted orange to resemble a toy gun. That is why we have to ask legislators what they thought would happen when they passed mandatory marking laws on kids' guns. Were the legislators so stupid to believe criminals would suddenly obey the law? Law enforcement must be held to the same standard as civilians. You and I may legally use deadly force only when there is an immediate and otherwise unavoidable danger of death or grave bodily harm to the innocent.
That just goes to point that we as civilians, as well as police officers, must be able to articulate ability, opportunity, and jeopardy before they use lethal force.
Yeah.
And my other comment is, why do we keep wasting time and money creating laws without at least discussing it with a firearms expert? I just don't understand. Does anybody
Whoa,
really
whoa, whoa.
feel good about this junk?
Yes.
Really?
No, not me. But wait a minute. All that junk legislation had to do was get a politician some campaign contributions. That's what its goal was.
Right.
It wasn't to make anybody a drop safer. And the only people that might conceivably pay the price for junk legislation would have been honest gun owners.
Yeah. It just.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously wasn't the legislation wasn't designed to create the situation, but this is an example of really bad unintended consequences.
Well, I mean, think how many seconds would it have taken a firearms expert, someone that has studied the criminal use of firearms and the civilian use of firearms for defensive purposes? I mean, Mossad Ayub would have looked at that and gone, here's something you might not have thought of, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Mossad Ayub, I mean, Paul Lathrop. You know, I don't understand. We don't need to go to one of the top firearms experts. Let's just talk to somebody who owns a gun. Let's do that.
There is a lot of stupid in this story. There's just a lot of stupid on a lot of levels.
Oh, my.
There's a lot of stupid laws coming up. You know, you guys are probably familiar with that one that they're working on right now with the bulletproof vest. It's just as stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bulletproof vest, that's got zero chance in the Congress. It's got a little, actually less than zero chance of getting through the Congress. So.
Well, but that's the air quotes excuse that the ATF is using to outlaw the green tip ammo. Well, any rifle round will penetrate a soft body armor.
That's correct.
Well,
yep.
Well, like I said on the last show that I was on, 17 HMR will go through soft armor.
An ice pick will go through soft body armor.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Well, you know, I have to pick on the current group that is going to kill me, the Sandy Hook Advisory Council.
Yeah.
Their suggestions are to ban all firearms capable of accepting more than a 10-round magazine.
Right.
Excuse me. There is not a 7.8 automatic that exists that is not capable. Talk to any gun owner. I don't understand. How can you make? I mean, if you're going to build a bridge, do you not talk to bridge engineers? I don't understand.
If you're building it with taxpayer money, why do you care who's about bridge engineers?
That's just it. And Gary, no, they generally don't talk to bridge engineers. Why do you think that so many of them that are built fail? Yes. You know, look at the Big Dig project in Boston. That thing was fatally flawed from the start, and yet they just chugged right along because it had already been gone through the process of getting paid for. When you're talking, unfortunately, when you're talking laws, you don't need to interject sense in there.
It's going to make me cry.
I wish so bad that we could have less education, aka brainwashing, and just more understanding and brain usage.
But a lot of them, you know, they have their private agendas, and they realize that sadly, most people are not like the 5 or 6 of us, and or even our audience. Most people really don't pay attention to anything unless it directly affects them and it's in their face. You know, from bridge building to body armor to anything else, most people just really do not pay attention to what our government does at all.
Well, I got to politely disagree with you a little bit there, Gary. I believe that the majority of the listeners to the Polite Society podcast are paying attention. I would agree that a majority of people aren't, but I don't think this listener group of people is not paying attention. They're on it.
Right. And I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear about that. Other than the 6 of us and our listeners, there are a large mass group of people that do not pay attention to what's going on. They just don't know.
Okay, so that's a dozen total, right?
There you go.
No, no, it's 13 because we had Ben on here a little bit ago. I'm sure.
There we go. We've got another listener. Yes.
Susan, what's next?
We had Dean Weingarten on the last episode. He compared the safety rates of concealed carry holders and police. Here are more facts from the Minnesota Gun Owners Civil Rights Alliance. Only 0.2% of all violent crimes committed with any weapon in Minnesota were committed by a legally armed Minnesotan. So out of all criminals, gun owners are 1 out of 500. Only 0.08% of Minnesota permit to carry holders committed any sort of a violent crime in 2013. Out of all Minnesota permit owners, less than 1 in 1,000 committed any sort of violent crime. Only 1/100% of Minnesota permit to carry holders used a firearm in a violent crime in 2013. 1 out of 10,000 Minnesota permit holders used a gun in a violent crime. Those numbers are so small it's hard to understand them. Look at the dangers of concealed carry holders this way. You are 25 times more likely to be hit by lightning than being assaulted by a legally armed Minnesotan. In fact, you are 14.5 times more likely to be assaulted by a random stranger on the street than you are by a legally armed Minnesotan. Law-abiding gun owners are not a safety problem. They are the solution.
Yeah, we've got a great graphic on the show notes if you want to, grab that, post it or something. But see, it's obvious to us, but some media outlets uncritically post the distorted statistics used by the anti-rights groups. And John Lott tore apart the misleading statistics. He pointed out their errors. The anti-rights groups said the examples of justified self-defense showed gun owners were dangerous. The anti-rights groups also counted a defensive gun use several times if the shooting and court case ran from one year into another. We try hard to bring you the truth.
All right, I've dug into the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
We need to ban hot dogs.
Oh yeah, tell us why.
More children die from choking death in their own home on their own food than from accidental deaths caused by a firearm. I mean, that's clear. We need to be protected from unregistered bratwurst.
That's right, because the government, it's their job to protect us. They're not doing their job.
Okay, it is the truth, but you're right, it's a distorted view of the truth. And I'll try and be serious. Private gun owners acting in self-defense are going to shoot more criminals than the police. That's been true year after year. And it really doesn't impact the total statistics on concealed carry. As private armed individuals will kill more criminals in self-defense than the police as well. That's simply because criminals attack civilians much more often than they attack policemen. I mean, criminals look for us. They don't go in it. Until recently, thank God, we hope that stops. Most criminals don't look for a cop to attack. And if you study the statistics and look at what happens in law-abiding towns, yep, about half the shootings will be from firearms owners protecting themselves, and then the police are involved in the other half. Now, this is kind of interesting. In dangerous towns, the shootings are from criminals shooting each other.
I do want to, before we go off, I want to bring something up here real quick, and Rachel touched on it a little bit, but I want to really strike this home a little bit. Folks, we really do try very hard to make sure everything that goes on our airwaves when it comes to the news segment is 100% totally accurate. I myself look for multiple sources. When you get news here, you generally have got it confirmed from more than one reliable reporting source before it leaves here. We do work very, very hard on that.
Paul, does that mean the article down at the bottom that said Bigfoot carries the 10 millimeter? We're probably not going to use that one.
Not this week. No, I want to get one more source on that.
Okay, good.
The truth about guns, just I don't trust them that much.
This news is from Colorado State Senator who proposed constitutional carry. Senator Vicky Marble said, quote, SB 32 allows a person who legally possesses a handgun under state and federal law to carry a concealed handgun in Colorado, whether the handgun is loaded or unloaded. I don't know why someone would want to carry a concealed unloaded handgun, but there may be someone who would like to, and if that's the case, then he or she can do that as legally as if it were a loaded handgun. The reason this bill had no other sponsors is because it's the first bill I introduced this session. There are many first bills that have no other sponsors on them. This is merely due to the fact that we were not in session and didn't get access to legislators the way we do when we were at the Capitol full time. All Republicans signed on as co-sponsors in the Senate after the third reading. We have great Second Amendment support in the Senate. The House sponsor is Representative Kim Ransom. She'll do an excellent job. I'm sure we'll have all House Republicans signing on to this bill if we should see a third reading in the House. Close quote.
That's a great attitude. I really like that attitude. Hopefully our listeners in Colorado support her.
Yeah, to hear a legislator say, "I don't know why someone would want to carry an unloaded handgun." We had one of our senators in Texas make a statement like that. That if I carried my handgun unloaded, it wouldn't be any good. I appreciate that understanding.
There are a lot of people that do carry on. They carry in conditions.
Right.
And where there's not for me, the way I carry in condition 1, ready to fire.
Right.
I believe that's the best way to carry. However, I would rather you carry with one not in the chamber than not carry.
Right, and since you brought it up, I wasn't meaning to imply that everybody needs to carry loaded. I think it needs to be everybody's personal decision, and they need to be making that decision for themselves. But it shouldn't be illegal to carry loaded.
Agreed. Totally agree with that one.
Well, just a couple of things. First, I've had students ask that question about carrying without a round in the chamber, and what I suggest they do is try that for a month, and if they haven't had the trigger be pulled, they can pretty much count on it not being a problem to kind of get them into a comfort level. And second of all, there are several studies and YouTube videos that demonstrate how much slower you are trying to do that. And the best example is, what if you're carrying a child, dragging an injured loved one?
Yes.
Yes. With a tremendous amount of practice, you can chamber around one-handed.
But
and it's something that you should practice. It's absolutely something you should practice, but it's not something that I would recommend putting yourself in that situation.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, you can reload one-handed.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a pain in the ass. It's slow, but it can be done.
Hey.
But I agree with you. I agree totally, Gary. The best way to carry is with one in the chamber.
Yeah. I think I carried without a round in the chamber for, I want to say it was close to a year, because I was just more comfortable that way. And at that point, I think I was getting more training and thinking about it, and I realized I was much more comfortable carrying with a round in a chamber.
Right. Yeah.
Because
okay.
everything started to make sense to me. I'm like, okay, I get it. I need a round in the chamber.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with taking your time to get comfortable with that. I don't think you should be walking around uncomfortable with your firearm ever.
Right.
So if it takes a year, whatever,
it's a long time, but right, exactly.
Totally, yeah. I
only time I'm ever uncomfortable.
Do what you have to do.
The only time I'm ever uncomfortable with my firearm is if I'm carrying appendix and sit down wrong.
Yes. Ow. Find out you meant to move whatever was in your pocket, right?
Exactly. We're coming up on the end of this. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If our listeners, and in fact for all of us, if you want to explore that question, what would happen if I had to reload carrying a child? What would it be like if I had to shoot and go to guns when I was sitting in the bathroom? Well, if you can keep your pants up for that and imitate the realism, we do that in IDPA all the time.
Just a little tack onto that. We had a baby, like a doll,
Yes?
with an egg stapled to it
Oh, yes.
Wow.
that we had to carry out of danger, then set down to continue
Nice.
engaging targets.
Yeah, no
A lot of
tossing
fun.
the baby.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So a lot of fun and not perfectly realistic, but certainly get your mind thinking about other things. So yeah, totally. Competition is just so much more to get you in tune with real life than standing in a square range. 100%.
Well, and not all competition is a crazy gun race to do a set course really fast. Some of it really are gun puzzles you get to figure out in front of a timer.
Okay, Rob, I'm getting closer.
Well, Rachel, isn't that what you guys do at Battle Road?
It is. It is.
Yeah, so someday we'll be as good as you.
All right, let's go ahead and jump off to break. We got more news to get to when we come back, and we'll be back right after this.
Susan, good job on the Minnesota stats. I thought that was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I try to read ahead a little bit while you guys are talking, so I know kind of what I'm talking about, and I'm like, what?
Wait, what did I say? Yeah.
What was that?
And by the way, sweetheart, I gave out your secret. I told them you were on a date with a younger man when
Yes, I was. Blonde, muscular, very vocal.
Yes. She was. In case I happen,
Walking the
I know the listeners don't know what we're talking about. She was watching our grandson.
Oh, cool.
Okay,
He'll be 2 here in about a week and a half, and he's just learning. And Nana taught him today to go, whew, oh boy.
So if everybody looks at the people editing the show notes, you will see the pink anonymous sheep again.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is.
Okay.
I'm assuming because you posted a link for Gary Harpster,
Yeah,
and
I
I
did.
believe that is probably him.
No,
Because-
Gary's
No,
on
it's
there.
not.
Gary. Well, but he's grayed out.
mhm. Okay, yeah, because you can be logged in twice. And
What's
Yeah.
wrong with
Nothing's
what I
wrong.
do?
No,
No,
the show
nothing's
notes-
wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong, Gary. It's just the show notes show that there are currently 6 people looking at the show notes.
Is the anonymous sheep maybe me? 'Cause
No,
I'm
you're
not
there.
listed up there.
Now there you are. Now, but you notice Gary. Yeah, okay, we're good. Now it just shows 5 of us.
Yeah.
So we're
yeah,
all
but
cool.
Gary jumped off, and we've still got the sheep.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to do the gun quote?
I'll do it.
All right.
For it.
Awesome.
All right. Are we ready to record this now? How many
Let's-
stories we got in this one?
I think 5.
2, 3, 4,
Okay.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can get this in one segment.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I haven't read all the way through. I don't know if I can shut up through all of them, but I'll try.
We'll see
Just
what
talk
happens. We'll see what happens.
You have your pill bottle?
Rob. It's
Yes.
part of my show. It's part of my show equipment.
Joe Prep.
Special effect.
I got my jelly beans.
All right, here we go. Rob, you get to bring us in this time. And we're rolling now.
Welcome back to the second news segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Susan, give us our next news story.
Missouri citizens passed an amendment that required strict scrutiny for firearms laws. Some politicians and police chiefs don't like the results. The law states, quote, "Nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent the General Assembly from enacting general laws which limit the rights of convicted violent felons or those adjudicated by a court to be a danger to themselves or others as a result of a mental disorder or mental infirmity." End quote. A Missouri police chief said that means only individuals convicted of violent felonies can face felon in possession restrictions. Not all prosecutors agree with that conclusion.
There are guys, I'm sure, who picked up a felony and now are going, whoa, maybe I'm no longer a prohibited person. The first guys that come to mind are some guy who had a minor drug conviction back 20 years ago. Maybe they will use this law to repeal the prohibition for minor crimes.
Yeah, I've used this example a million times. Make this 1,000,001. Young mom, single mom, having problems meeting rent, bounces a rent check and in South Dakota, I don't know what it is anymore, but I know at one point it used to be $250 you bounce a $250 check, and I don't know anybody who doesn't have a rent that's more than $250 a month. Usually it's triple that or more. But you bounce one check for rent, and all of a sudden you're a felon.
Wow!
Your gun rights go away for life. I like this Missouri law. I like it that, and I believe there's Virginia's working on a way for nonviolent felons to get their rights back. I like that.
New York doesn't like knives. You can be arrested in New York City for owning a small pocket knife that fits on your keychain. Meanwhile, New York has seen some of the most militaristically armed police forces in the nation. Now, New York State Senator Tony Avella said he'll introduce the bill to ban the possession of long, fixed blades in New York, including the ever-scary and Hollywood demonized machete. Quote, "The fact that anyone can easily purchase this potentially lethal tool is just crazy," end quote, the senator said.
Yeah, you need to listen to this. Yeah, it said what your ears thought it said. A machete.
Yeah, we've got three of them. I use them to clear treelings out of the yard. Could I do it with something else? Yeah, but would it be as easy as with a machete? No.
Well, your dad uses them on the farm all the time to cut down some of the higher weeds around the garden.
Right.
It sounds crazy to everyone listening, but it's a consistent crazy from New York, and we shouldn't be surprised. Remember, Governor Cuomo said that people who believe in self-protection really don't belong in his state.
It wouldn't surprise me if sooner or later New York comes up with this law saying that everybody has to wear an Ebola suit 24/7 and be handcuffed to a chair in their house just to keep them from hurting each other or something.
The Nerf state?
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with a friend today, believe it or not, about some of these laws that come up, like this, like you can't carry a firearm on public transportation here in Illinois, things like that. The government wants to keep us dependent on the government because then they get the power.
Well, but Gary, there's something. What do you want to bet that this legislator in New York probably has never cleared his yard? Maybe he's an apartment dweller. Never. I mean, talk about parochial. The guy needs to get out more.
Well, I'm sure.
Once again, they didn't speak with a lawn maintenance expert before they came up with this law.
His gardener, I'm sure, takes care of his lawn.
Yeah.
Not to defend New York or that law, but having spent a lot of time out there in a place that I absolutely hate, I will make a comment. I think that mentality exists. The majority of people who live, particularly in the metropolitan area, which makes up the largest population in New York, they honestly cannot self-function. They have been so long in that environment where the government does everything for them that I think that's the mentality of their laws comes out of that environment where I can see them, as insane as it appears to us, I can see where they actually think it makes sense to them. It's a different kind of sense. But I was surprised my last trip to New York for Hurricane Sandy. the hundreds and hundreds of people I met that I personally met that had never been across the bridge. You can see the bridge from Brooklyn to New Jersey. You can see it. They live under it. It's right there. It's a big part of their everyday view. And they never in their 60 years of life have ever been out of Manhattan or ever been off Long Island, ever been across that bridge. Everything they know mentally is that the federal government, the city government, the state government, that is them. That's what they need to do. They can't grocery shop or go to the bathroom. They literally are completely entrenched into the idea like this, that would make sense to those people because they literally know nothing else. They don't know, even know the rest of the country exists on the other side of New Jersey.
Well, it's going to be tough for them, but they are going to be brought kicking and screaming into the real world, and we're going to make sure of it.
Yep.
Well,
I agree.
I've been saying this since I was, believe it or not, since I was a child. I used to have this conversation with my father that people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions anymore. They want somebody else to handle it. They want somebody else to discipline their kids. They want somebody else to keep them safe. They don't want to do it themselves, and the government loves that power and keeps saying, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it. And we know they don't do it well, if at all. But they certainly keep taking the power. And we say this as firearms owners, with great power comes great responsibility. And they're taking the power and they're not taking the responsibility. And the general population is letting it happen.
Absolutely, letting it happen to themselves. And in many cases, Chicago, Miami, New York, laws like this make sense to those people because they've been at this now for generations. It's not just one generation, but the second and third generation deep of exactly what you're saying, Gary. They've lost any idea of even how to take care of themselves if they were given the opportunity to do so. It doesn't exist in their background anymore.
Right.
We were told how guns cause crime, and we would be safer in a gun-free zone.
Sorry.
New statistics are now out. They show how dangerous it is to be in the Maryland state prison system. The prison system is the ultimate gun-free zone, where the murder rate is 3 times the national average.
And somehow we want to blame an inanimate object for violence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say I'm not really shocked that the murder rate is 3 times the national average in a gun-free zone, for 2 reasons. Number one, these are criminals in prison.
Yep.
And number 2, that even though it's a gun-free zone, you cannot make a weapon-free zone.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. But the bigger picture is people that we've been talking about, the people who don't want to take responsibility for their actions would love to be in a world that is similar to a prison. Somebody to tell you when to eat, somebody to tell you when to exercise, somebody to tell you when to work, and a bunch of people standing around keeping an eye on everybody, and everybody has their own space and it is restricted to different locations where they can move. That's the kind of giving up of their personal responsibility that some people really want.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the Cumberland County, New Jersey Sheriff's Department decided the department looked bad. It looked bad for them to charge a 70-plus-year-old man with a felony for possessing a 300-plus-year-old flintlock pistol. The Sheriff's Department went on the offense this week by publicly speculating that the suspect, retired teacher Gordon Van Gilder, was a druggie. This despite the fact that up to the point that we record this show, the firearm possession is the only crime Mr. Van Gilder is charged with. The best part of the story that we found in the Daily Mail was a quote by attorney Evan Napin. Obviously, flintlocks are the weapon of choice for drug dealers. My 72-year-old, severely arthritic client was given a ride to retrieve his 18th century antique. He's not on drugs, but the folks who made New Jersey's gun laws may well have been.
Oh my goodness, I love that quote. That's priceless.
Yeah, don't get in a war of words with attorney Evan Nappen.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You will lose.
Yeah.
Thanks to the group Jews Can Shoot for pointing out this next story for us. The Houston Chronicle is stretching things a bit as they fight against campus carry in Texas. In the February 21st editorial, they ran a piece that claimed that it would cost tens of millions of dollars to implement concealed carry on campus, with most of the cost being the beefing up of police on campus. Of course, that money would come from things like cancer research.
Yeah, I've seen this story played out before. I think the last place we saw it earlier was in Florida, where a college administrator will say, gosh, we couldn't let guns on campus. I mean, that means we'd have to put barbed wire everywhere around it and have TSA gates in front of every bathroom stall. And, oh, that's very expensive. I don't know how we could do that and still provide an education. Which is describing their imagination.
And see, here...
or the gullibility of the voter.
Yeah, here in Texas we had those kind of statements coming from the UT chancellor, but A&M is different. It's obviously UT's huge rival. A&M, I heard, was not going to encourage campus carry until the Student Senate let's see, what do they do? They passed a bill in the Student Senate approving campus carry by a really large margin. So the Texas A&M chancellor ended up encouraging campus carry. He told Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick he has no objection to the campus carry bill that's pending in the Texas Senate, and he wrote a letter that said, having licensed gun owners in possession of legal weapons on our campuses does not raise safety concerns for me personally. The real question is this: do I trust my students, faculty, and staff to work and live responsibly under the same laws at the university as they do at home? Of course I do. So I appreciate that perspective. That whole letter was read in the hearing. Obviously, we did hear from the other chancellors and police chiefs who all raised these great concerns about the expensive costs and all the, raising insurance because of liability if we allow campus carry. Honestly, I think that is so stupid. First of all, I don't think it's going to increase costs as far as insurance. I think that the private universities who opt out should be more liable for disarming victims. But all that aside, the bottom line is, even if it does cost more, even if it were to cost more, campus carry is going to save lives. And so I've got to ask them, what kind of price do you put on life?
If it saves just one life, isn't it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it to allow guns on campus. Now,
right.
Before we jump to the gun quote, because I'm not sure how many stories we have, we've had a letter from one of our listeners that said, don't beat up on Democrats. It seems like we're bashing liberals. John Spencer Sharp, the chancellor, is a Democrat politician from Texas. He served as the chancellor at A&M since 2011, and from 1991 to 99, he was the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. There is a Democrat who understands.
We're giving him a shout out.
Wait a minute. We have talked about this on the show before. It was Democrats that have been fighting for 10 years to get concealed carry in Illinois.
Yeah, downstate Democrats.
Yes. So I don't think look, we sometimes the word gets used. It's not necessarily 100% appropriate. It's certainly the majority of Democrats who liberals who want to take that control and keep people down, but I don't think we think of them as a group. I certainly don't think we beat up on them as a group.
Well, in this case, we need to give credit to this individual.
Yeah.
And speaking as Paul Lathrop, the owner of the show, gig 'em Aggies. Let's go ahead and move off to gun quotes. This one, I love this quote. I can't read. Liberalizing concealed carry laws won't lead to a return of the Wild West, although it wouldn't be bad if it did. In the 19th century cattle towns, homicide was confined to transient males who shot each other in saloon disturbances. The per capita robbery rate was 7% of modern New York cities. The burglary rate was 1%. Rape was unknown. That's from David Koppel, who is the research director for the Independence Institute. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back with Ben Branam right after this. Okay.
By the way, I've started storing gun quotes as I stumble across them during the week. They're in the show notes. I think I shared it with you guys.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, good.
And Gary Harpster just sent me one. I think we may have used it before. This one sounds familiar. The world is filled with violence because criminals carry guns. We decent, law-abiding citizens should
James
also
Earl
have guns.
Jones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Dump it in there. We'll reuse it.
Okay. It'll be after the show, but I'll get it added.
Okay.
Okay, DGUs. Oh, and by the way, I want to mention while we're not recording, although maybe I should mention it towards the end of the show. I was looking at show notes or at show stats earlier today because I'm kind of curious how this segmenting is going to go. Our downloads of the segments are 10%. Our overall downloads are up 10%, and that I can trace just directly to segmenting the show. And they haven't started plugging us at Firearms Policy Coalition yet.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
So that's just by segmenting. So,
Do you really believe that the time has come for episode segmentation in society?
there you go.
Apparently so. We are ready for it.
Oh, okay. DGUs. Gary Doherty, you haven't brought us back in yet.
Do your duty.
Do you not want to? Do you not
I don't
want
work
to?
good off script.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. We are rolling now.
Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're going to start with our DGU segment. Susan, give us the first one.
This news story was sent in by listener Scott from Houston, Texas. A Northwest Houston apartment resident called police early in the morning to report that he had just shot a burglar. Police found the burglar with a gunshot wound to the head. They also found signs of forced entry to the door and window of the second-floor apartment. Several intruders broke down the door and fought with the homeowner before the homeowner defended himself. The other thieves ran away. The burglar was taken to a local hospital for treatment. The homeowner was questioned, but not charged. Neighbors say this isn't the first time something like this has happened at their apartment complex. One resident's home was robbed earlier in the week. Another resident has his car broken into as well as his apartment.
The one thing I want to bring up about this one is a non-fatal headshot. Happens more often than you think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I've been hearing.
So, these are tools. Yeah, the headshot. A headshot is more often than not, from my understanding, a lucky shot rather than an aimed one. But even a headshot is not a guaranteed stop unless you hit them in the exact right place. So, aim for center mass, folks. Good on this. The resident here for ending the confrontation. I don't know about they fought with him first. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm too old to fight, man.
Rachel, in our last episode, it was a woman who had 4 intruders barge into her house.
Yes, it was.
They're talking about this one being 3-on-1, and I'm going, wow. In California, or New Jersey, New York, where you're tied to 7 rounds.
Yep.
Nurse.
Yeah, you're gonna win a whole family who carries if you're limited to 7 rounds.
Folks, I assume most listeners to this show, at minimum, have a firearm in their home for self-defense. Talk to your friends. I just spoke with another friend the other day, or maybe it was today, whatever, and they don't have a gun, but they know they should, and they don't know where to start. They
Mhm.
they know they grew up here in Chicagoland, where in general they're looked down upon. They've been looked down upon. They don't know. They've never handled the gun. So talk to your friends about it. You got a gun for personal protection. You know, you got somebody's going outside. And it's cold. You're gonna make sure they have a jacket. I mean, it's talk to people. It's okay, and we need to get the word out there. There's a lot of people out there that know they should and don't know even where to start.
Yep.
Help them.
I want to bring this back to, and that's a great point, Gary. That brings me back to this. Several months ago, this may have even been almost a year ago, we had this topic come up. And I think it's important for us in our personal lives to talk about gun ownership as it's a normal thing. And I equated it then back to what has happened with gay rights over the last 10 years. The gay rights activists came out and said, look, I'm gay. It's all right. It's an okay thing to be gay. And they started talking about it as a normal thing. And you know what? It is a normal thing. And now they're getting in the majority of states, it's legal for them to marry. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's not. It's a good thing for them to be able to marry, in my opinion. And their rights are advancing leaps and bounds because they became normal. They became just another person instead of somebody gay. That's what we need to do on our part. We need to be talking to people like, yeah, I own a gun. Yeah, don't a lot of people. It's a normal thing to do. And when we start doing that, our rights will go through the roof.
Our parents are growing older. A woman in Columbus, Ohio had recently become a widow. Her son was concerned for her safety as she lived alone. It wasn't a safe neighborhood, and they bought a gun for her a week ago. At about 5 o'clock in the morning, a thief broke into a home across the street. The homeowners pushed him back outside through a second-story window. A few minutes later, the widow across the street heard someone break into her home by smashing through her front window. She shot the intruder. The intruder was taken to a local hospital and died a few hours later.
He survived being pushed out a second-story window and continued his crime spree.
Yeah.
Something tells me there was some pain-killing, among other drugs, on board there.
Well, this is the second story today. Everybody has a mother. Think about it, a sister. Everybody knows somebody who lives alone. Talk to those people. Make sure that they're prepared, because this stuff is not defined by location. It is completely random. It's mostly random. So talk to people. Once again, I have to harp on this. Like I said, I just had a conversation with a friend. Talk to people. Make sure that they're prepared.
Amen.
We've reported in the past that the mere presence of a firearm is sometimes all that's necessary to stop a crime. When Christopher Harho came into Debbie's Filling Station restaurant in Okmulgee, Oklahoma, Tuesday morning, he was looking for a fight. He confronted one of their customers and then pulled a knife on the man. That is when another customer, who was a concealed carry holder, stepped in. According to waitress Dana Rucker, he drew his gun and said to her, quote, "He's got a knife. Put your knife away. I have a gun." End quote. He had a concealed carry license, and he was very clear about what he had. Harho, who it seems was quite drunk, sobered up enough to realize that a gun beats a knife, and he ran out of the restaurant into the arms of an Okmulgee police officer who had just arrived. Harho faces several charges, including assault with a deadly weapon. Restaurant employees were very grateful that the patron was armed and able to stop the potential attack.
Wow.
Mhm.
In the game of what is it, Rochambeau, rock paper scissors?
Yes.
Gun beats them all every time.
Every time.
A pharmacist in Pinch, West Virginia had walked away from the pharmacy counter when a customer pulled a gun on two other pharmacy clerks and said this was a holdup. The pharmacist moved towards the employees and the gunman, and then the pharmacist drew his own firearm. The pharmacist shot the robber in the chest. The robber ducked, but raised his firearm. That was when the robber was shot again. There were 8 customers in the store. The robber fled into the store rather than running out the door immediately behind him. The pharmacist shot again, and this time struck the robber's forearm. The robber was taken to a local hospital where he died of his injuries.
Firearm. This pharmacist hit
Yes.
the robber's gun.
The pharmacist was back in the store the next day.
I'm sorry for this, but I just got to say this. That pharmacist is good in a pinch.
I want him on my side.
I want to say there's no longer safety in numbers, folks. They used to say that when I was a kid. There was, looks like, what, 4 employees in that video and 8 customers?
Mm-hmm.
This guy wasn't stopping for nothing, and he was alone.
Right.
Yeah, he was. I would say there's still safety in numbers, but they've got to be numbers of your friends that are armed as well.
Well, once again, armed, not just a group of people.
Well, I do want to remind everybody we do post each of our news and offensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com. Please go ahead and take a minute to share them with a friend. And also, we are segmenting the show out as we put it up on the PoliteSocietyPodcast.com webpage. If you want to share just one DGU or just one news segment that you had something you liked, or maybe just a segment of the Ben Branam interview that's coming up next, you can do that. Head on over to politicsandguns.com and you can do it there. We've got email coming up, and we'll get to that right after this.
Interviews coming up next, or?
Oh, well, I'll edit that.
Okay, just let you know.
Yeah, I'll edit that. All right. Email. I guess I'll bring us in on this one. So I don't think you're in front of this computer. All right, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back to the Polite Society Podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our email discussion. We got 2 emails to do tonight. Susan, you want to read off the first one?
Jeff Armstrong emailed this one in. Wild Pigs, a Parable and a Fact. One day while in class at a large college, a professor noticed one young man, an exchange student, who kept rubbing his back and stretching as if his back hurt. The professor asked the young man what was the matter. The student told him he had a bullet lodged in his back. He had been shot while fighting communists in his native country who were trying to overthrow his country's government and install a new communist regime. In the midst of his story, the student looked at the professor and asked a strange question. "Do you know how to catch wild pigs?" The professor thought it was a joke and asked for the punchline. The young man assured the professor that his question was no joke and went on to say, "You catch wild pigs by finding a suitable place in the woods and putting corn on the ground. The pigs find it and begin to come every day to eat the free corn. When they are used to coming every day, you put a fence down one side of the place where they are used to coming. When they get used to the fence, they begin to eat the corn again, and you put up another side of the fence. They get used to that and start to eat again. You continue until you have all 4 sides of the fence up with a gate in the last side. The pigs, who are now used to and want the free corn, eventually begin to come through the gate to get the free corn. When all the pigs get inside, you slam the gate and you catch the whole herd. Suddenly, the wild pigs have lost their freedom. They're confused and run around inside the fence, but soon they go back to eating the free corn. They're so used to it that they have forgotten how to forage in the woods for themselves, so they accept their captivity." The young man then told the professor that is exactly what he sees happening in America. The government keeps pushing us towards communism and socialism, and keep spreading the free corn out in the form of programs such as supplemental income, tax credit for unearned income, tax exemptions, tobacco subsidies, welfare entitlements, medicine, drugs, etc., while we continually lose our freedoms just a little at a time. God help us all when the gate slams shut. Marx once said, "Remove one freedom per generation, and soon you will have no freedom, and no one will have noticed." Thank you, Jeff.
I'm not. That sounds like a well-written story to me, but it also sounds accurate. I don't think it's a. I don't think it's a exact telling of a true tale, but it sounds like a very good parable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, thank you, Jeff, for writing that one in.
Tony emailed this one in. Paul, I'd like to thank you for announcing the Black History Month shoot on your podcast. It was a success. I will be hosting more of these shoots. We had a respectable number of people show up for an event that only had 2 weeks advance notice. 3 young men had never held a gun before, but after shooting various Ruger 1022s, a Henry Lever action and .22 long rifle, and various handguns, they are fans of the sport. Myself and Sean of BlackBagResources.com shared our knowledge of New Jersey gun laws and the various organizations that fight against new laws. They were also informed of how easy and how important it is to contact legislators and make their voices heard. I'd like to thank Anthony Calandro from Gun for Hire in Woodland Park, New Jersey, and Sean Fisher of BlackBagResources.com for their help. More events will take place in the future, and I would appreciate the help of the Polite Society podcast. Thank you, Tony.
I'm glad that went well. Thanks, Tony, for writing that in. And of course, whenever you have another event, just let us know. We'll promote it for you, Tony. No big deal at all.
Mm-hmm.
So normally when we get here, we ask if Rob, you got anything from the Slowfax blog you want to talk about?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that is gonna. Anything else we want to bring up before we shuffle off, or is that gonna wrap it up, folks?
I think that's a wrap.
Okay. Well, in that case, it does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. I really want to thank Ben Branam for coming in and doing that interview with us. That was a fun time, and I cannot wait to meet him and go through training with him in May. So until the next time, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Before we go ahead and take the show off the air, I do want to mention our advertisers. ABN Army Surplus, of course, Gary, you heard on the air here. Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, Firearm Safety Institute. Of course, you heard Gary on the air with us, the other Gary. And
Gary's.
Yeah, and the Firearm Safety Institute. We're hoping to have somebody from them on in the near future as well. I want to thank you folks for watching us live, and remember, we do this every Sunday. Next Sunday, we will be coming at you live at the normal time, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, and we will be doing it from ABN Army Surplus. So if you want to see the show live, you can stop by and see us there. So that does it for this week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.